Hello, and welcome to another episode of Bare Bones Wargaming, a show with no bells, no whistles, no frills, just a man, a camera, and his game. In this episode, I'm going to be talking a little bit about a game I've been working on called Fire in the Sky, The Great War in the Pacific, published by, if you can see it down there, it's so faint, Multi-Man Publishing. Here, I'll flip it over to the backside. Much nicer looking on the back, if you ask me. Sorry about my throat clear there. I've been working on this because, as most of you know, and if you're members of Board Game Geek and you know me, Tim Korchner over there, I've been searching relentlessly for a very playable Pacific Theater game. I love Across the Pacific, can't stress that enough, but it's so big. So, this, though, so far is actually doing pretty well. I'm doing what I call my clunker play, and I'm working my way through it. And I just thought what I do, kind of like a little update for my channel, just let you know what I'm doing, what's happening, what's going on, as Marvin Gaye would say, and just give you a few things that I've noticed so far that I've learned. Because one of the things that's a criticism of this game is it's kind of hard to wrap your head around at times, because it does have such an interesting way of doing things in terms of a war game. It has an interesting process of how you play it. So, what I've been working on is just this clunker play, and just a couple things I'll share here as I've been working on this. As you can see here, and I'll just kind of zoom in a little bit, my Japanese have been doing pretty well here so far. Done pretty well through the Central Pacific. Got all the way out here to Wake Island, which I should. However, you will note over here, I have been struggling. And of course, again, this is my clunker play, so I'm not pretending that I'm an expert strategist or anything like that. I'm still trying to figure this all out. But Singapore and what's the name of this place? Surabaya, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, they're still in Allied hands, which is not good, because the one thing I need as Japan is oil, and oil is very important in this game. So, haven't done so well there, and now I understand a little bit better. When I was flipping through the rulebook at the end, there's a shorter scenario, which starts basically after Pearl Harbor and after the initial Japanese hit, if you will. And part of the reason for that has been that you can have some bad starts to the game. And that is true. I have seen that because, again, I'm on turn am I on here? I'm on turn 2, the Allied portion of turn 2. And I still don't have Singapore. I mean, that's kind of crazy. So, anyway, a couple things I will share. And before I share here, I want to give a shout out to a member of Board Game Geek who has been a big help to me. Those of you members of Board Game Geek, you probably recognize this character, Wendell, Wendell, of course, Whiff is World in Flames. I've been corresponding with him because he absolutely loves this game, and it is nice to look at the threads on the discussion boards, but it's also nice to have somebody to communicate with, so you can be like, so this is what I'm thinking is how this works, and am I right? And it is kind of nice to have somebody be like, yeah, your train of thought is correct. So he's been a big help, so I wanted to give him kudos for his assistance as I worked through this and try to develop some videos for the game. So speaking of the videos, just real quick, I've decided I'm going to do a couple of short ones. I'm going to do one covering operational movement, one covering deployment, and then one covering combat, because each of those have their own unique flavor to them. But a couple things I've noticed so far, just to share at this point. And again, those of you who watch this and stuff in the comments, if you think I am not wrapping my head around this, right, by all means, pitch in. That's part of the point of this, is to help us all learn the game better and help us all to have more fun. So basically, when it comes to deployments, you're basically moving from base to base that you control. No more than hopping 4 hexes at a clip. And for the Japanese, it costs you oil and transport, because the Japanese were strained on both of those. Allies have no issues with oil. They do have issues with transport, though. They do also have their own transport points. So deployment is kind of like moving your guys around, getting them to, like I used the deployment to get down here to Rabaul. And if you're wondering about these things, let me zero in on Rabaul. There's really no captured base markers. Well, actually, you know what? Let me zero in up here, because you can see 2 of them here in the Philippines, which I managed to take, which you got to have right away if you want to get the oil transported back to Japan. Honestly, I was looking for stuff in AC Moore, and I saw these. These are actually beads, but I thought they looked cool. So I have red ones for the Japanese and blue ones for the US, which I'll need, of course, eventually. But basically, deployment is getting your people into position to strike. You can't attack. You can't move into a space that has enemy units in it during a deployment phase, with the exception of land units. Land units can do that. Or is it the operational phase? Actually, land units might be the operational. No, I think it is the deployment phase. See, this is part of why I'm doing this. This is part of why I want to do some of the videos, because I want to try and, get this out here to help us all, just to help me and, everybody else too that watches this. So basically my point being that you're moving into position, and then you use operational movement to go ahead and move your ships into striking position and attack, and that's when you do your combats with the combat board. One thing I will say, and let me just go ahead and move y'all over here with the combat board, a couple things I have learned about it is air points. When air points are reduced, they're not destroyed. If you want to destroy an air unit, you have to launch airstrikes and smash it at its base. Other thing I learned, which I didn't realize at first, was these bombardment boxes, these are for task forces. Task forces in the sense of I can put one here, one here, one here. It's not just for each ship. I thought it was just for each ship at first. So you can actually put like an entire task force there. So over here you could have, theoretically, 3 different carrier task force to help you out there with it. So that's part of the battle phase, which goes with the operational movement, which when you move into battle on the map. I will say this, as I continue to go through this, it's gelling more and more, and I'm figuring things out. There's a lot of threads on Board Game Geek to sort through. I'm not sure if I'm on page 3 out of 5 at this point, but I'm slowly trudging through that. And again, touching base with Wendell when I want to kind of clarify and make sure, okay, am I reading this right? Do I have my head wrapped around this correctly for learning the game? But right now I will say this. At this point, at this juncture, not to... Was it when they used to parody George Bush on Saturday Night Live? Somebody did that. But at this juncture, this is basically becoming my second favorite strategic Pacific game. This is one that I think is going to fill that spot nicely, because I feel that the more I get the rules, the faster things pick up, and I think the faster I'll be able to play through it. And it does play pretty well solitaire, I might add, too, because with the air superiority, you don't know who's going to get control, and then you make decisions based on that, so you can make the best move for each side. There's reaction movement, so just like if you were playing a real 2-player game, you can be like, if I move here, they could come over here. And of course, if you want some uncertainty, and you're thinking about a decision, you're like, with reaction move, should I move this here? Should I leave it here? You could always roll a die and let fate decide, pretend you're the theater commander or something instead of being the supreme commander at that point in time. So, flowing nicely. I like it. It does take a little bit to wrap your head around, but I'm enjoying it. So I'm well on my way to agreeing with Wendell that it is one of the best war games I've played. The only thing that still gives Across the Pacific the edge, and again, I need more experience with this to verify this, is the chit pool, because with the chit pool, when I was playing Across the Pacific, I actually was able to pull off a Lady Golf kind of thing, because with the chit pool, you have a strategic chit and you have an operational chit, and that's a lot of chit. But you can move units into position, and then if you get the operational chit first, you can try to ambush the enemy. So like, for example, with the Lady Golf kind of thing, strategic, you could move the forces into place, and then if you move second as the Japanese, after the Americans have put their units around the Philippines, then if you get that operational chit pulled out first, you can ambush them, a la the Lady Golf kind of thing. That's something I'm not sure if you can do in this game yet or not. I'll be kind of curious to see. One other thing, too, it can be a little tricky with the air units, is the ZOC, so make sure that you take a look at that, because that does have a big impact on this game as well. It's a lot of fun. It's really starting to come together. I hope now within the next week or so, I hope to go start posting the videos on this. Again, just covering, you know, one video on deployment, one video on operational movement, and then one video on combat. Because again, when you're first starting to learn this, it does take quite a bit of time to kind of go through it, wrap your head around it. It is a unique system of combat that personally I haven't seen before. But I will say this, I sold this years ago. I pre-ordered this when it first came out in 2005. And if I remember, it came out in the summer of 2005. And I actually sold it by the end of the year. And to be honest, at this point, 13 years later, almost 13 years later, I guess, I can't remember why. It may have been that my interest in the Pacific Theater was waning at that point. But it also could have been just wrapping the head around as well, too. And I was still a new member to Board Game Geek at that time. And I don't think I even knew that Consim World existed. So, anyway, just a little intro video here, just to give you a little update what's going on. I am moving forward with this project. So, I hope, like I said, within the next week, to get you some videos posted, breaking down the different parts of the game and explaining things thoroughly, not only the rules, but also my thinking, because I think understanding thinking helps wrap your head around things. So, this is Tim Korchnoi for Bare Bones Wargaming, saying I will see you when I'm ready to do the video for the deployment phase. Catch you then.